Hi everyone, I am Abhikendu and I welcome you all to a brand new episode of Take Two by Exposition Pictures. Our guest for the evening has written the screenplay for films like Krishh, Kites, Krishh 3. He's also been the writer of TVF Tripling. He has written songs for the likes of Arijit Singh and Papon. He has directed Irfan Khan, Darkeel Salman, and Mithila Palkar in the film Karwaan. He's about to go on the floors this November for his upcoming sports drama, Rashmi Rocket with Tapsee Pannu. Not limiting himself to working behind the screen, he has acted in several films and web series. You have seen him as Vani Kapoor's dad in Befikre. More recently, you have seen him in the web film Singh Charlie on Sony Live. And most importantly, you have seen him as the Papa in Ye Meri Family. Please welcome lyricist, writer, director, actor, and whatnot, Akarsh Khurana. Hi, Akarsh.
You make hi, Abhikendu. I'm very happy to be here. You make me sound of a lot more prolific than I actually am. Thank you
Through
for
your
that.
IMDb profile, and that's really, really amazing the kind of work you've done.
Well, I started with theater, so I actually run a theater company for 20 years as well. But yeah, that doesn't come up on IMDb. But thank you for having me.
So coming to this, before discussing anything about your work of art, I would really like to know the beginning of it. As in, you've also grown up in an environment comprising films. So how has that impacted your upbringing and your knack towards filmmaking?
Well, in the growing up years, of course, my father is an actor, and he would be spending a lot of time on film sets. Uh, my exposure to it was a lot less than people would think. The fact of the matter is that from the time that I was a child, whenever I visited him on set and stuff, I would always find film shoots very boring. I would land up there and they would be doing like one scene the whole day, and like after the first like 10 minutes it's just like, why are you here? And honestly, I think that from the outside, like a film set can be a very boring place. If you're not involved, if you're not actually working on it, watching the process, I think, loses its charm after the first 10 minutes. uh, that was not something that I did very much. um, in terms of spending a lot of time around film shoots and stuff like that. I would say that what kind of rubbed off on me a little bit more was, maybe the theater part of things.
Okay.
My father was also very actively involved in theater, and I was spending a lot of time around like rehearsals and around Prithvi Theater, and I think that kind of seeped a little bit more into the DNA than the filmmaking thing. It was something that I knew that perhaps I would want to do, but there was no real kind of goal in mind. I was actually very happy, doing all the extracurricular I could in school and college, and then opening my own theater company. Um,
Okay.
and My film journey actually started as a writer. My father also wrote quite a few films, and his writing partner Robin Bhatt, who is now the president of the Screenwriters Association. Back in the day, I had actually joined a corporate job, and I was doing that, and then I wanted to kind of break out of that little corporate regime and do something more creative. Theater was happening by the side, but I wanted to do something more. So he actually asked me to come on board as like a writing assistant to
Okay.
him, and that's actually how my kind of journey started, as being like an assistant at that level. And I spent about a year and a half just being in different writing rooms, taking notes and all of that. And he was also responsible to get me my first meeting with Rakesh Roshan, and how I got on board the writing team for
So
Krish.
Krish was your
And
first venture.
officially, yes, I had also worked on another film that my father's company Nimbus at that point of time was producing, called Sarhad Par.
Okay.
So I had been involved in the writing of that, but officially, Krish was the first one.
Right. And
And
I, Yeah, I think
Sorry.
you were also the second AD for Krish.
Yeah, so that's what happened was that when we finished writing Krish finally, which was it took quite a while. I mean, we were writing it I think for about close to 9 months, and I had actually already procured my next writing assignment,
Okay.
and I was quite happy being a writer at that point of time. But Mr. Roshan actually suggested that why don't you come on board and assist as well, because you've been involved in the writing process, and
Hmm.
clearly if this is something you want to do, like you'll learn a lot. So I did, yeah, I assisted on Krish. I started as quite a junior AD. I mean, the good thing was that there wasn't really so much of a hierarchy in Mr. Roshan. Uh, but the good thing is that because Krish also shot, for over 150 days, the thing is that I kind of got to experience all the various job roles at all the various levels. So whether it is, doing continuity or doing crowd control or eventually kind of doing short breakdowns with Mr. Roshan or, script supervision. Uh, and then I also got to sit on like the edit and I got to sit on VFX. So for me, I often say that Krish was basically
Yeah, so it was a
filmmakers. I mean,
holistic experience for you.
yeah, it was 3 years of being involved from the first word on the page to the delivery of the final print. So yeah, that for me was a great 3 years of learning.
Right. So from there to now, when a month back, Tapsee Pannu had tweeted about her upcoming film Rashmi Rocket, which is going to be directed
Yeah,
by you, and it's scheduled to go on
yeah.
floors this November. So comparing that
Mhm.
time with now, it's a very different era because of the current situation. So, and especially because this film is expected to be a sports drama. So so in this
Right.
kind of situation, what are the challenges you're already facing, or you expect to face once the filming begins?
I mean, you mean with the reference to
Yes, with
the
reference to the
pandemic?
pandemic.
Well, the thing is, the film was actually supposed to start shooting in April,
Okay.
and then in March, of course, the lockdown happened, and I think all work stopped for about 6 months. Um, Now the thing is, see, right now I think nobody really has any answers. It's such an uncertain time, and no one really knows what is the right way to go forward, or if there is any end in sight, and if there is, then when. Uh, the thing is, I think what's happening is that people have kind of realized that the show must go on in a way, it's in a manner of speaking, and at this point of time, the best thing that you can do is be careful and take all possible precautions, and try and kind of continue the process of creating. um, so I mean, I know that films have already started shooting, and they're baby steps right now, and that's why we also said November, because we wanted to take a little time. We've got back into prep. The whole team is just regrouping, and we're hoping that things will ease up. We don't have answers as of now, but we're now, I think, approaching all decisions with a little bit more caution and sensibility. So even things like what we were like locations, for example, that we were supposed to originally shoot with, when we were shooting in April, they're being reconsidered because we have to take travel into account and crew sizes into account, and just safety levels into account. And so yeah, it is a very new kind of approach right now. It's going to take some getting used to, I'm sure, but I think it's also necessary at this point. So it will be interesting to see how it pans out, and how does it actually affect things like productivity or the environment on a film set. It'll be interesting to see how all of that pans out. But yeah, fingers tightly crossed and hoping that things are going to find a
Yes,
way.
and you mentioned about the crew size. So of course you will have
Yeah,
to shrink it down to a certain extent, right? So
of
how
course.
are you planning to manage it with that limited size of crew?
See, you have to be, clever about it, I think. And the thing is that you have to do a lot more prep.
Mm.
And you have to, so the approach is a little less, freewheeling. Like, you would land up over there and you would have all the people that you want at your disposal, and then, it would be a crowded set. And now that's something that we have to reconsider. And having said that, I mean, interestingly, when we were shooting Karwaan, and I think on one of the first days that Dulkar shot with us, he was actually surprised at how large the crew was, and Karwaan was not a large crew in comparison to the bigger films. But
Yeah,
like he said, Malayalam films actually start to finish are made by not more than 60, 70 people in the crew. And it doesn't hit three figures at any point of time, and films get made because there's just a different approach that they've had, and perhaps more discipline, and in that sense. And I think it's just something that people will have to align themselves to. The
right.
downside is that less people will have employment on a film, which is the downside, because I mean there
Yeah,
is that sense of community where you kind of go along with your entire team, irrespective of size, will have to be kind of curtailed. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how you're reworking your sensibilities and planning better, and just approaching things slightly differently and cleverly. I think
right.
that's
Yeah,
the key.
absolutely. So, since you mentioned Karwa, I would like to have
Yes.
this observation put forward that you have also been the writer for TVF Tripling and Karwa, which speak a lot about
Yes.
travel and journey. Both of them have been on-road films. So, but however, the cultural
Sure.
background for both the films have been a total contrast to each other, where one was totally in the typical North Indian Rajasthani setup, while the other was a South Indian setup. So, what were the most important pointers you kept in mind while evolving the characters for both the films?
I mean, to be honest, I think that the process of the evolution of the characters was quite independent of the geography of the material. That the journey that we wanted the characters to kind of go through was an internal journey, right? And whether it was Stripling or it was Karma, we approached first those characters. See, the thing is, these things could have been retrofitted into any route that we wanted to take. At in fact, when Karwa was going into filming, even though it was written very much with Bangalore and Kerala in mind, because I'm personally very fond of Kerala,
Mm,
and I was very keen to kind of shoot in that terrain. There were suggestions that came that why don't we kind of look at doing something like the north and Manali and Rajasthan and stuff like that. And I was like, I feel like that's a bit done to death. um,
yeah,
and the most recent example being Tripling, because we had done that in Tripling as well in a fun manner. And I was like that this is a very different terrain that I've always wanted to explore. So that is what I wanted to kind of keep. Having said that, like for example, when we came up with this, when we were talking about Tripling season 2, because North had happened and South had happened, and we were like, we need to kind of change it a little bit. So in that sense, Tripling season 1, the geography didn't really govern the script. But in season 2, there was a conscious decision that it would be moving via Calcutta to the northeast.
yeah, okay.
Uh, so it was then kind of kept in mind in terms of that. See, in terms of season 1, I wrote it. My co-writer on Tripling is Sumit Vyas, who's also acting in the show, and Sumit himself, is from Rajasthan.
Okay.
So there was always that little bit of wanting to kind of visit Rajasthan as a part of that and kind of see the difference of culture over there. And we only knew that we wanted it to kind of end in a really picturesque place.
Mm,
And we had family, friends, or relatives who have kind of settled in the hills, for example, whether it's Manali or Nainital or Bhimtal, and which is quite a thing for like North Indian families to do after a certain age. People do kind of land up retiring in the mountains, and we wanted that. And also we had this idea of, say, parents who are particularly liberal and cool, and we were aware of couples who kind of settle down in resorts in like Sonapani or in Manali for that matter. So that kind of happened organically, where we were like, we'll kind of start it in Bombay and we'll go to Rajasthan and then we'll end up in Manali, and we'll get, visually we'll get a very different thing across the episodes. And there's a little, I think in the season 1 there's a little segue into Punjab as well. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was but I think the first one kind of flowed a lot more organically, and the second one we had a conscious choice. Karwaan fortunately was always written with the route in mind, because I had taken that route in life on vacations.
Yeah.
I had actually traveled from Bangalore to Kerala. I had done that actually for a shoot. I was shooting Bijoy Nambiar's David, and I traveled from Ooty to Kerala, and I remember, falling in love with the route that we took through the forest and
Absolutely.
stuff like that. And I was like, this is, where I got to do. And in fact, it's a very strange thing, but a significant part of Karwa was worked on and written by me in the same hotel that we shot the climax in, which is the hotel run by Amla's character.
Oh, okay.
That hotel is where I actually worked on portions of the script. And again, I was a hotel I fell in love with, and I was like, I have to shoot in this hotel. I love this courtyard that I want to shoot here, and I think it's really pretty. And yeah, fortunately, I had producers who kind of made all of that possible.
Great. Yeah. And you also have been, of course, very lucky to direct Irfan Khan in the film, and he has performed outstandingly.
Yes.
I've seen the film, and I personally love all the characters' performances over there. So, what were the takeaways you had while directing, especially Irfan Khan?
Well, I mean, see, honestly, uh, I had to kind of remind myself to stop being a fan and be a director a couple of times, at least after the first few days. The good thing is that I got to spend a decent amount of time during prep with Irfan. Because he wanted to work on his character and how he spoke and how he looked. A lot of credit goes to Hussein Dalal, who's my dialogue writer, because he actually, I mean, 80% of the dialogues that Irfan takes as Shaukat in the film are written by Hussein. A lot of people find it hard to believe because they think it all feels so improvised. But that is full credit to both the writer and the actor, that they can actually pull it off to seem like such a natural tonality, where it almost feels like Irfan came up with it on the spot. And that's his greatness as well, that he could kind of take a text and own it so well. Um, I think that we were all intimidated to begin with
Mhm.
when we kind of started shooting, because I mean it was Irfan, and everyone was like just walking on eggshells a little bit, trying to make sure that he's happy and he's comfortable. And I think what we kind of realized in the first 3 days was that he didn't really want that. He wanted it to kind of be a part of the gang. And I think that the moment we kind of realized that, it just slipped into a far more easy kind of relationship and environment. And he was interacting with everybody. He was having a great time in Kerala. I mean, there were cricket matches between shots that were happening, which he would play in his lungi. uh, and yeah, he was in a generally happy space. I mean, the thing is, for example, my relationship with him, while very warm, always had that element of respect and professionalism. In that sense, like say, Dulkar and Mithila became more of my friends.
Right.
It was far more like backslapping kind of equation. And with him, there was always a little bit of just that respect. But he was very warm, and uh, very much a team player in that situation. He was very much working in the spirit of the entire thing. And even his team told me that like he seemed very happy. He was very happy in the outdoors. I think he loved Kerala. So he was in a yeah, he was in a really good space, and it was just lovely to kind of watch. um, so there was an interesting thing he would do. He would show up in costume. He would come from his hotel in his costume. He would be ready. He would get off his car. He'd be ready to shoot. And um, one thing that I noticed is that everyone kind of talks about this whole method acting and stuff like that. Where you kind of and maybe because Shaukat was a character that he was enjoying or was easy for him, it was really just switch on and switch off. He would be having a completely, unrelated conversation with the DOP about something. And the moment the shot was ready, I mean, there was no prep. and there was no like, I'm taking a beat to get into this, and rehearsal was also just to kind of get a feel of like the moves and stuff like that. And the thing is, it becomes a lot less intimidating when you see someone who's just so casual, seemingly casual about their art in that sense, and they can just pull stuff off like in the blink of an eye. Suddenly you're like, oh, he's talking like Shaukat, he's got the dialect back, and wow, and he's having fun with that, and then he's back to normal, and he's like, let's play cricket.
Who
So
switches up to
that was great to
natural and
kind of
effortless.
yeah, that was at least
Right.
on my film. So I was
Okay.
definitely there, and I think that comes from a certain level of prep. I think that he had kind of already established in his head who this guy was and where he was from. And he had spent time with the script. He had spent time with me and the dialogue writer,
Mhm.
ironing out some stuff and stuff like that. So I think there was a very unassuming level of prep that had happened. That kind of just you don't see the process, you just see the results, which is so great.
Absolutely.
So
So coming to the next question, which is that you have written
yeah.
screenplays for big budget films like Krishh, Kites, Krishh 3. And on the contrary, you've also written the screenplay for Tripling Karwaan, where the budget has definitely been a constraint in comparison to those films. So, how do you restrict your imagination as a writer, where the budget constraint is often a reminder?
So I don't think that that's something that you should kind of burden yourself with in the process of creation.
Okay.
It is quite, it does happen that, like, you write something and then eventually when you present it, the producer or the director comes and says that, this is something that we might not be able to pull off.
Mhm.
And maybe we need to rethink it. But I don't think that any kind of there should be any limiting of creativity when you're actually creating. You should be able to kind of do whatever you want. And also, I mean, the thing is, and since you are a filmmaker, or you're working with filmmakers yourself, I mean, there are so many tools at your disposal to make stuff happen, right? I mean, that's the whole magic of cinema, right? At the end of the day, that technically anything is achievable. Yes, it comes with a price, and sometimes that price might not be something that you can afford on a project. But like, see, if you look at something like, Krishh is an anomaly because Krishh was meant to be like a superhero film. It was a sequel. It was obviously going to be a really big budget film, and we were being encouraged to kind of imagine big in that sense. Kites is something that's actually a simple love story, but it was eventually scaled up, and that was something that happened, that not something that necessarily in the writing process, but it was eventually in terms of the filmmaker's vision.
Hmm.
uh, you know and even for Tripling, for example, I think when we were writing it, I don't think Sumit and I were limiting ourselves at all. I mean, if you look at just a requirement list of Tripling, I mean, the kind of number of cities that they've shot in and the number of characters that they encounter and the number of set pieces is actually
Yes,
quite
agreed.
massive. But it was then executed sensibly in a manner where, and I don't think that there were any kind of major restrictions where we were told to kind of really cut out anything, uh, or I mean, I do remember perhaps like in the second season there was this big sequence in Calcutta, which I mean, Calcutta is in the second season, but I think there was just a logistical issue with that. There was just like a that this is something that perhaps we won't be able to pull off because we can't stop the traffic on that bridge. So is there a possibility of just rethinking it a little bit? And that was more a logistical thing. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think that there's no reason to kind of limit yourself right from the beginning, unless that's absolutely the mandate in the beginning. Like if someone tells you, I want you to write something that is set in one house,
Mhm.
and that no one goes out of it, then you're approaching it in that manner. But I think also coming from a theater background for me, um, I come from a space where the most epic scale can be recreated in some manner on
Right.
screen,
Yes.
and that's where you're coming from, just kind of thinking out of the box, right? Because it's also about what you evoke. uh, and so I think you kind of start learning a lot of these tricks, perhaps, to still achieve things, but without having to be exorbitant about it. So I think that if you're writing something of your own, particularly, one should not limit oneself. And if it's commissioned work, then obviously you're working to a certain set of parameters. So that's a different setup. But yeah, I don't think that keeping the budget in mind, unless it's absolutely necessary for the nature of the project, is
Mm.
something that should be imposed
So
on a
you
writer.
usually start off with your imagination going full-fledged, and thereafter in the execution part, if the budget is a constant, you can tweak the screenplay somehow. Is what I'm getting.
Is what I've followed mostly,
Right.
and I guess I've been fortunate enough to have that liberty.
Great.
Uh, but I just think that it's a nicer way to go about
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah. So, coming to the actor part in you, you've acted in films like
Yes.
Singh Charlie, Befikre, and the web series Ye Meri Family. So, you've been involved in all of these solely as an actor. So, my question is that does the filmmaker or the writer in you come in the way of the actor? Or have you always relied entirely on the creative vision of the filmmaker, or you've been you wanted to provide your inputs to them?
It's a very conscious choice to not interfere.
Okay.
It's a very conscious choice to make sure that your director slash producer hat is off. The thing is, I think it helps because, I mean, I have been in that job role, right? I have worked with actors, and they are coming together to kind of help you bring your vision to life. And so the importance of that singular vision is something that I'm very aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if someone else is directing me and I am over there as an actor, even though it might be difficult sometimes, if you're seeing something happening in a manner that you think can be improved, it might be difficult, but it's a very conscious choice that I am basically in that project. I have agreed to be an actor, so I'm there as a tool for the director to use. And the thing is that he or she knows best for what his or her vision is. So unless someone asks, I usually kind of toe the line, and it's a very conscious choice in that. And like for example, also like if you're talking about Ye Meri Family, for example, Sameer, of course, who directed it, Sameer Saxena, is a friend,
Yeah.
and Sameer Saxena and the writer Saurabh Khanna knew a lot more about the milieu and the character than I did. I come from a very kind of urban upbringing.
Right.
So the thing is, in fact, when they wanted to cast me as this middle class Jaipur based father, I actually told them, you're making a mistake. Because I mean, I don't have that body language. I don't have that kind of just sensibility. I don't know how to ride a scooter. It's these are all new things to me, and it's going to show. uh, and they were very confident. They were very confident, and for me, then it became even better or even more advisable to just leave it all to them. And it clearly paid off, because I mean, a lot of people reacted saying how real it was, and about how the character reminded them of their fathers, and probably from small town India or B towns in India. So clearly they were doing something right, so it kind of made complete sense to me to submit. uh, and yeah, so it is a very conscious choice to kind of keep in fact, I acted in this film called Bhangra Pali,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which was being directed by my associate of 4 years.
Okay.
So Sneha Torani has assisted me, or been my associate for 4 years, and now she was directing. So there I was even more careful that the old equations should not be coming in. That, like, where I mean, like, she's being told by me what is a better decision, and it was therefore I was even more careful, because it was like, this is not what there is a different protocol here that has to be respected.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a very
Great.
conscious
Yeah.
choice.
Okay. So my last question would be more of a YouTube comment rather than a question. So I was going through some of the articles on Ye Meri family, and there was one line written that there were updates on the season, on the upcoming season. So is there actually a season 2 coming up?
I don't think so. The thing is, what happened is, and this is actually a very practical reason. I mean, I know that there was a second season written at one point of time, but what happened is that when we shot Ye Meri Family, I think the show came out. I think maybe a year and a half after we actually shot it, and by the time that it released, like the kids had really grown up. Because they were also kind of at that age where they, suddenly shoot up, and in fact, I think Harshu, who's the middle kid, is now my height.
Oh,
So, and I know that the script that had been written was supposed to be like, that was the summer of 1998, and I think the second season was like the winter of 1998. But by the time we even started talking about it, the everybody was 3 years older. And in fact, I remember that even when they were dubbing, doing some patch dubs, Harshu's voice wasn't matching what we had shot because his voice had started cracking. So I think it was just a natural order of things that kind of led to everyone thinking that maybe this is definitely not the script that we can make because the kids have grown up. But it's a property that can be maybe rethought and made in a different manner. But I think that it's a lovely little 7 episode experience right now, which
yeah,
fortunately a lot of
absolutely.
people have seen.
I
So
totally loved Ye Meri Family, and I've watched it, I think, twice. I've watched it
yeah.
twice, and I was really looking forward to season 2, but you got me a little disheartened over here. But anyways,
Not you. I mean, it's just like millions of people out there whose hearts we have to break
yeah.
every time we tell no more
Anyways,
this idea.
all the best. I'm wishing you all the best for your new venture with
Thank you.
Tapsee.
Thank
Hopefully,
you so much.
you'll get the film shot all very safely with the entire crew. And
Yeah, fingers
forward.
crossed. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking out your time. It was really an honor
Likewise.
interacting with you. So hope to see you in future for real instead of a screen out over here.
Yes, likewise. Likewise.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. So, hi, I've had the great privilege of doing a little interview with the folks at Exposition Pictures, who are bright young filmmakers themselves and run a production company. But they also do this thing by the side called Take Two, which is a series of interviews that they do with people from the industry. And I have just done one with them, and it was a lot of fun. And do come and take a look at it, and like and subscribe to their channels on YouTube and Instagram and other social media. Yeah, see you there.